Hello, everyone.
Good evening, sir. Yes,
Good
we can.
evening, everyone. Can I see cameras, please? Let me see all of those good-looking faces from all over the world. There we are. Hold on. For those of you who I haven't seen yet for the year, Happy New Year to you. Cian, how are you? Happy New Year to you, Gerline, Maxine from the US, Funke and Jacob from Nigeria, Siobhan and Liana, my fellow Trinis. Look at that. Arabe, pleasure. So we have an exciting, this is 1 hour, and then we have another event coming in the next hour. So let's get started. I'm so excited to introduce you guys to 5 incredible coaches in our community. And you guys get a taste today of what our talk shows and our coaching sessions look like for our clients. So first up is Terry from the US. Terry, wave to everyone. There is Terry. I love the bridges disconnect between in your personal and your business conversations. I kind of love that, right? And Terry recently did a TED Talk, and we can't wait for that to get live. The next coach we have, can we go back to the other screen so everyone can see his face? Sridhar. Sridhar, are you there? There you are, Sridhar. I love Sridhar because he is an entrepreneur and lifestyle coach, and he's our mindset guy. Week I noticed on Sridhar's LinkedIn wall, he had one of his first coaching sessions, and he got that, that client entrepreneur going, I made $20,000 this week. I used all my coaching tips, and I think there's nothing better than that for a coach. So good for you, Sridhar. We have Ria on our team. So Ria heads people for us at GLEAC, and Ria's coaching. Ria's helping me probably do the hardest thing I've ever done, lead teams. So Ria's going to kind of give us that team aspect of coaching. And then we have Siobhan. Can we see Siobhan? Can you give a wave? There you go, Siobhan. Siobhan is focused on sales. He is the go-to guy, all of you, for SME sales coaching. And then we have Senna. What a privilege to have you in the community, Senna. Senna is all about your self-awareness, and Senna just did a career pivot. She was a pharmacist before getting into this whole consulting and coaching space. So Senna, we're really looking forward to your session, and we're cheerleading you on, right? You're an example for so many people in terms of pivoting career. So let's get started. I'm going to start with, let's go back to the main screen. Let's get started. First of all, before we get started, real quick, with your hands, show me how you're feeling right now. With your hands, do something with your hands that tell me how you're feeling right now. Right now, how are you feeling right now? Okay, all right. Okay, we're feeling good. We're feeling good. We're feeling good. Okay, that's a great place to start. So we're going to start with a question for Terry. And just so that you know how the sessions work, we're going to have 2 generic questions where everyone's going to, all the coaches, you can take a stab at it. I'm going to start with the person who gave me the question, the coach, and then we're going to have breakout rooms. And the breakout rooms are going to have the coaches and what they're tackling, and you're going to get to meet each other, and you're going to tackle some of the questions in breakout rooms in smaller groups, right? That's where it gets really kind of meaty and juicy for us at GLEAC. So the first question goes to Terry, and all the other coaches can join in. I think we all kind of, this is a great question to start. I get knots in my stomach and my heart races when I'm facing high stakes conversations. I know healthy relationships in work and in life requires, us to have these conversations. Like, how do I get started with this? Terry, if your goal is having these crucial high stakes conversations, like that's many of our goal this year, to have difficult conversations with the people we love, the people we work with. Where do we get started? Let's put the pin on Terry Asma.
Thank you, Sally Ann. I'm so happy to be here, and I love the question. And so I'm just going to dive right in.
Sure.
Right. And so the more we have confidence in our communication skills, the better we can step into those high stakes conversations. And I have a body of work that's called Soulful Listening. So I'm going to go through the 5 elements that I find to be most helpful. And then before we're done, I'll go ahead and post a PDF with these 5 elements in the chat. So anyway, the first element is self-care. And so when we've all had like enough rest and good nutrition for a few days, aren't we more emotionally available for others? Yeah. So self-care is more than a bubble bath. It's really, although
What
it
do you mean? What do you mean?
although it may include a bubble bath,
Okay.
it's also, how are we talking to ourselves? What's our internal conversation like? And what kind of healthy boundaries are we setting? And how are we taking care of our physical body? So that leads us into the second element of soulful listening, which is becoming fully present. I think we can all imagine times when we can almost see a bubble above a person's head with a laundry list of things they're thinking about, not us and not our conversation. And so becoming fully present may sound a little abstract. So I'd like to guide everybody through a quick breathing activity that I find to be so helpful. And so the way we're going to do that is we're going to take 3 intentional breaths. We're going to breathe in through our nose. We're going to hold, and then we're going to breathe out through our mouth. Before we do that, check in with your body right now. How do you feel? Okay. Now breathe in through your nose. Hold. Out through your mouth. Again, in through your nose. Hold. Out through your mouth. And a third time, notice the warmth in your heart area. In through your nose. Hold. Out through your mouth. Now, how does your body feel? Wiggle your toes. Yeah, I felt the energy shift between all of us. We're all more fully in our body, more fully present now, and it's that simple to do. And this leads us into the third element of soulful listening, which is a hybrid of active listening and empathy. So for me, if these two had a child, it would be this element. And it's all in type of listening, where you listen with your eyes, your ears, your heart, all of your senses, your intuition to more than just words. And the Urban Dictionary defines this kind of listening as quantum listening. So when we fully take care of ourselves and become fully present, we bring a quality of grace and compassion into every interaction, those high stakes conversations as well. And this leads us into the, the fourth element, which I call the secret sauce, and that's inspired action. When we connect on this deeper level, we often find insights into how we might be helpful to another. And this is golden. The Dalai Lama shares that our prime purpose in this life is to help others. And so once we gain this insight, we take action, inspired action. Imagine what that would feel like if somebody did that for you, no strings attached. And this leads us into the fifth and final element, which is the feedback loop. That's letting a person know you've taken action on their behalf. And as this cycle repeats itself, it embeds integrity and confidence within relationships. And so to your question, how do we prepare? How do we get that knot out of our stomach when we're entering into these high stakes conversations? It's taking care of ourselves, knowing how we can navigate a conversation, entering into the conversation with an openness and a sense of curiosity, with a higher degree of emotional intelligence, as opposed to playing out both sides of a conversation before it even begins. And in the past, that may have sounded something like, he'll say this, I'll say that, it's going to end like this, which never turns out well, right?
Thank
And
you.
so, yeah, go ahead.
Please. Thank you. Absolutely. Please add what you would like to add. And then I would love one of the other coaches to jump in and tell us how they also would handle these crucial conversations.
Right. And so one other pearl of wisdom that I would like to share is choose your timing wisely. Yeah. If you come into work, you're all rattled. The person that you want to have this high stakes conversation with has just got dumped on with 100 things. that probably isn't the best time to engage in this high stakes conversation. Or if you're at home and your partner just walks through the door and you just lay into them about the list of things that you need to have changed. You know, we all know how that works. And so choose your timing wisely. Yeah.
I love that, Terry, about choosing your timing wisely. You know, that happens to me. And sometimes you have to fight for those boundaries with others. You know, I've noticed that with me. I've started fighting for those boundaries to be able to go, no, I don't want to have this conversation now. No, don't have this conversation with me, because sometimes I think on the receiving side, you have to be boundary that it's the wrong time and you might react and not in the right way. And you need to be able to signal that very, very clearly that, you know, I don't really want the dump now. All right. So yeah, I love that. Any of the coaches or anyone in the coaching group has any feedback? Sana, let's hear about having healthy conversations and meaningful conversations, the crucial ones.
Yes. I loved actually what Terry shared, and really it resonates well with me, because really sometimes we focus on what we want to say in the difficult conversation. It's all in our head, but we forget this important element of the energy we're bringing. So really the state you are in, the unspoken, the body language, you know, emotions are contagious and people will feel what you're thinking and what you're spreading. So really managing your state before going into such conversation, and a little bit of reflection, why in the first place you identified this conversation as a difficult one. Does it trigger you? Do you have a past experience that you're expecting? A little bit of curiosity about the other person's opinion. So let's consider it as a collaboration for progress, and then really coming with an intention. What do you want out of this conversation, and how are you managing your state and your nonverbal communication to the other person? So kind of, you know, taking some responsibility of the whole communication and see how can I make something different? How can I change something in my communication to really win this conversation? This is really something that I think all of us should think of usually. And sometimes when it's at work and we don't have the time, we really focus on the point that we want to send, and we forget that our body is sending totally different messages.
Yeah, I love that. And you know what, Sana, it's so important on Zoom. We are responsible for the energy we bring into the room. And that even means on Zoom. And so many times people come to the room and you can see the lightning and thunder around them. And it's so difficult because we are all energy, and energy impacts energy, right? In terms of particles. And sometimes even though they might come the most well-intentioned, the energy, I love that. I love in terms of the body language. Okay, so that's awesome, ladies. Siobhan and Sridhar, I have one question for you guys to tackle. I love this one. I'm just starting a business, and I don't believe in setting sales goals and targets because they put so much pressure on me. When do I start setting, you know, I don't even know what the business is going to look like. So when do I even, like, I don't have sales yet. When do I start putting together, you know, rigid business sales goals? Like, well, when do you start? Why don't I have Siobhan start that, respond to that?
You know, I thanks a lot. Thanks. I'm very happy to be here, guys. I get this. So I work mostly with entrepreneurs, and I get this all the time. They kind of evolve into doing things quite organically, and they work it like this. It's like, well, I've got to pay my rent, I've got to pay my school fees for my kids, I've got to pay my staff, and whatever it is. And they build that up, and then maybe if I take something home for myself, then you know what, I'm ahead of the game. And you know, my first question would be to them in a situation like that is, are you happy with that? Like, what is that good enough for you? Is that income bringing you satisfaction in life? And if you want more, what are you willing to sacrifice for that? And if it means putting in a whole bunch of extra work to get a little more income, how does that affect your whole life, your relationships, and things like that? And what could you do with that extra money? Right? Is it because money is never the be all and end all? It's what you could do with the extra income, right? And so if you've got a really clear picture of where that roadmap is with your additional revenue, your, the things that could be, and that motivates you, then I say, okay, well, then we start putting something together. And it's what I've described there is what we call a bottom-up approach to goal setting. And that's okay, that works. But if you want to challenge yourself and you realize you have a long-term perspective on this, then it's time to push the envelope a bit, right? And start with a bigger goal, but that often intimidates people, right? Because how am I going to achieve, if I'm making nothing, how am I going to achieve $500,000 this year? And so I always tell them, okay, well, that's a good starting point, but let's break that down into smaller goals. Let's break that down into actions that you do on a monthly basis, because it isn't always about the number. The actions, the habit building, the discipline, is what really gets you there. So I always tell them, start small, know where you're headed, but start small, break it down, and see how it goes. And if you're okay with that and you've achieved a ladder, a next step on the ladder, then push yourself a little more. But so many people go from 0 to 100 and then work themselves down into, unhappiness. And so we're trying to do this in a healthy way. We're trying to improve business, but improve life. And so if that's your end goal, that's a healthier way to do it. So I ask a lot of questions around, what do you want in life? And then how does that translate into your business?
I love that. And I love, the fact of, I always say to move mountains, you have to move pebbles. So I'm not going to lie. I have a little Trello sheet that I use, and every day I give myself like a quota. I'm supposed to do top of the funnel, 10 things relating to sales, 10 things relating to investors, 10 things relating to mentor community. And I break that down, and then I look at my conversions, and it is habit building, because there are days that I forget. And you have to catch yourself on it and go, no, I didn't do my 10. You can't go to bed. All right. And Sridhar, what about you? How would you, for someone now starting out and, really kind of going, should I already set, sales goal? How would you tackle that?
First and foremost, Sally, thank you very much for having me here. It's a great pleasure and honor to be here and in front of so many people. I believe Shivam has kind of covered a lot of area in this segment already. I would take a step back and only add that sales goals are for an entrepreneur who is just starting. Sales goals are just a very small part of the whole planning that needs to be done. Most business, if you go to any list online, the reasons for failures of startups, sales goals are really not there. It's more of a vision, why they are starting what they are starting. Is there a gap in the market for what they are doing? A whole lot of other things. I would, in fact, take a step back and say to any entrepreneur starting out there to consult someone, if that's not their strength of area, to consult someone, have a complete business plan, a 360-degree business plan in which have a sales goal as one of those areas that they can identify and what should they be achieving. And now, having said that, if we really think about or talk about sales goals, let me give you first a metaphoric example and then come back to this sales goal. If I am guessing that most of us are in UAE right now. So let's say if I were to go from Dubai to Abu Dhabi, and there are two people who want to go from Dubai to Abu Dhabi. One has got, let's say, a motorcycle, a normal, ordinary motorcycle. And the other person has got a Ferrari. We can easily say who is that person who would reach there from Dubai to Abu Dhabi in 45 minutes to an hour. We all know that who would be that person. Now, so in order for us to even set sales goals and achieve sales goals, first and foremost, we need, why do we really want to achieve that? Does our mindset, our infrastructure, the services and the products that we are having really support the goals that we are setting? So if you have a Ferrari, if you have a Ferrari, you can really challenge someone to reaching Abu Dhabi in 45 minutes. But if we are having a cycle, you can reach Abu Dhabi. It's not that you can't reach Abu Dhabi, but you can't say that I will reach there in 45 minutes or an hour.
Yeah,
so you need
that
to really,
reality check. That reality check is really
reality
important.
check of, yeah, absolutely. Reality check of your infrastructure, your mindset, your drive to achieve what you want to achieve, the products and services that are they backing the sales goals. So yes, Have that all in mind and set the sales goals. Goals are important. You can't just blindly start an organization and entrepreneurship without having something to pursue. It's
Perfect.
just about having the right balance.
Okay, perfect. I love that. I love that. So I'm going to ask one to Ria, and then we're going to go into the room. And I'm just going to ask it to Ria real quick, and we can put Ria on. Ria, so here is the question for you. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
How do you handle teams that actually, how do you handle teams, motivate your teams that are not motivated?
Okay. First of all, the reality is the only people that can motivate themselves are themselves, right? You cannot magically make someone, let's say a lazy person or a lazy employee, turn them into a, a unicorn or someone who is just super sharp and, productive. And so our role as managers is creating that environment where they can find that motivation. So because motivation needs to come from within, something that, it cannot be created by the boss for you. Or you have to find that motivation and try to find like, what has always worked for me is I do ask them, well, of course, we have to address first the situation, right? Why are they demotivated? Is it because of lack of proper training? Is it because of lack of direction, or they're not clear with their OKRs or their KPIs? Or is it lack of feedback? So once you've mapped that out and you have already found the root cause of the problem and you've discussed that with the employee, then you can then set clear action plans, right? Which is measurable, and you can easily set goals for them that are just short goals, right? And then make sure that you have clear expectations. Next is make sure that they are capable of doing these expectations, right? And if they're not capable, what resources can you pull to make them capable, right? And also having that conversation with them that if they're not capable, you have to address that you have to assign that to someone else, right? Because otherwise you're setting them up for failure. Another thing is make sure that whatever you've set goals for them, it's measurable. And how do you measure it? Another thing is giving feedback, clear feedback. Is it weekly? Is it monthly? Is it daily? Is it quarterly? So it's very important to set that. And last but not least is clear consequences. So if these expectations are not met, so what do? Do we repeat everything from the beginning, from setting expectations all the way to consequences? Or do we reward the person if they've met the goals? Or do we release them? Because at the end of the day, we have to, do also what's best for the business and also for that person. Because at the end of the day, if this job is not for them, you're also not, giving them the time to find what they're really meant to do in life.
Yeah. So I appreciate that. And sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let someone go. Sometimes we forget that. Sometimes it's the kindest thing that you can do. All right. Thank you, Ria. So now if we can have slide one up, we're going into breakout rooms. You need to choose the room you would like to go in with which coach. You're going into the rooms for 10 minutes and you're going to unpack the questions. Now you're going to have another option to go with coaches again. There are 2 of these. So don't be shy in terms of, the next round, you can grab someone in the next round. Can someone put up that slide for me, please? There we go. Okay. So I'm going to shift, because Ria answered question 1. I'm going to shift Ria's question to how do you manage my partner work-life balance? My partner is really upset with me right now. How do you manage work-life balance? Room 1. Room 2. My goal is to do what I love. I'm over 40. It is too late to start over and change my career. I spent the last 20 years meeting everyone's expectations of who I should be, but not my own. That's Sena's room. So if you are in the process of re-navigating yourself, shifting yourself in what you do. So Ria's work-life balance, family, spouse, everyone upset. How do I manage myself? Sana is career navigation. Shrida's room number 3, setting targets to fit my life situation. Do I set, should I be realistic in setting goals, or should I set big, hairy, audacious goals? And based on where I am in life, like, how do I go about doing that? Like, where do I get started even in doing that? Room 4, Siobhan, my goal is to start setting sales goals for my business. I've been running it for a few years. I can pay all my bills. I sometimes wonder if even I could be doing better, but why should I fix something that's not broke, right? So we're going to kind of explore that whole idea of like, how big do you want to be? And, how do you go about doing that? Bottoms up or top down approach. Room number 5, my goal is to have better relationships. So my child is hitting full stride in adolescence, or my partner seems to have something internal going on and he or she is not talking to me about it. I'm panicking and feel there's a wall between us. Talking used to be so fluid and easy. What could I do? Okay, so let's start. You can decide which room you would like to go into. Room 1, are the breakout rooms ready, team?
Yep.
Okay, so everyone will get a notice on their screen of which room they would like to go into?
Yes.
Okay.
So you can choose which room they'd like to go. The rooms have been named with the coaches' names as well. So that way anyone can decide whichever room they'd like to go.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. If you can share the screen again that was there before so everyone can see what those rooms are. So room 1 is Ria. Room 2 is Sana. Room 3 is Sridhar. Room 4 is Siobhan. Room 5 is Terry. Have a great 10 minutes, guys. See you back in 10 minutes on the other. You're all back. You're all back. You're all back. How was your breakout rooms, guys?
Really good.
Yeah. Awesome. Oh, nice to hear. Perfect. Perfect. How was your breakout room, Siobhan?
I think we need to ask the people that were in the room.
Ooh, hold on. Okay, we're gonna have is everyone back? Okay. Everyone turn off your cameras. And only those, hold on, turn off your cameras, everybody. Is everybody's cameras off? Only those who were in Siobhan's breakout room, come back on. Turn back on your cameras, those in Siobhan's breakout room. Okay, what do you give him? This is I guess I should have mine on so you can see. So this is he did really well. This is, he did good. This is, maybe I want to try another breakout room, and that's okay. We're allowed to say that also. How did Siobhan do, guys? There you go, Siobhan. You got the feedback. You got the feedback. All right. There you go. So that's awesome, guys. Okay. And likewise, we'll do the same for all the other coaches. Everybody turn your cameras back on. Let's get to the next set of questions because we have another event starting in about 15 minutes, and I want to make sure I get you as much information as possible. So can someone share with me the next slide that we're going to tackle this question with all the coaches here. And the coach who is assigned to that will answer first, the 2. Asma, can you share with me that slide, please? So I'm going to have already room 1. That question is already answered by Ria this particular round. So I'm going to give another question to Ria and Terry, and they're going to take that first. But let me give the one to, and let's start with Sana, and maybe even one of the other coaches can answer this question. My goal is to become more self-aware. Am I really that person they say I am in my 360? I don't know how many of you have gotten a 360 feedback, or people say things and they're like, you're like this. And it takes you by surprise. How can I get better at being self-aware of my blind spots? Sana, why don't you tackle that first for us?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Thank you. So Of course, as you said, 360 is the report that people give you feedback. And it is supposed to be surprising because it will give you an idea about your blind spots if it's done correctly. And sometimes, what happens is people get defensive and then they will start, this is right or wrong, or who from the team gave me that feedback. But if we are talking about a leader who really wants to know their, a blind spot that we all have, so first thing is really to allow it to sink, right? You have the report, you have the feedback, allow it to sink, observe yourself. How do you feel about it? What is this feeling telling you? From where it's coming? Sometimes it's coming from ego, sometimes it's coming from, not your best self, we would say. So allow it to sink and reflect on it, even if you think it's right or wrong, because this is an information and the information can be helpful. We know that from communication, people perceive based on their filters and their, values and many, many things. So even they are in the same room, sometimes they perceive things differently. So really be curious to learn from this information. Consider it information and you will benefit. Whether a person perceived something wrong about you, then you want to think why this person is perceiving this. How can I change my style to adapt for this person so he can perceive the information correctly? And if the information is correct and then you have a behavior, you want to learn about it to improve it. So the best thing is really first to allow it to sink, reflect on it, and then be courageous, I would say, to reflect on your personal life and see what are you getting feedback from people living with you, maybe your partner, maybe your friends. If you listen well and you start to compare, you will find two dots to connect. And you will find, that this blind spot where you want to go. But I know there's maybe the time we don't have enough time. Just maybe the last step is really, we want to make a plan, right? Not short action. Sometimes leader will just say, okay, let's do it. And any action to fix things in a short term. But if you really want to change for a long term, it has to be a plan, because 95% we are unconscious, we're moving by our habits. So we want to have it intentional. We want to have our reflections to really make sure which behavior and habits we want to change, which will take some time.
Okay, any of our other coaches? So by the way, guys, I have to mention this in the room. We have, other than our speakers here, we have some of the most brilliant coaches in the room right now. All of you who are coaches, give everyone a little wave. Those who are coaches in the room. Yes, we have Maxine. Do we have any other coaches we have Sophie, we have Gurleen, we have Avneet. I'm not seeing faces of the others, but all the coaches in the room, and this is one of the brilliant things about our community. And if you're not part of this mentor community yet, hold on, this is my recruitment pitch. You better sign up to be a mentor in the community. You'll see the link in the chat. Shameless mentor recruitment into the community, but you're GLEAC Mafia for life as part of the mentor community.
Take advantage of the moment, Sally.
So my next question is a sales and business question. How do you get clients? And this is to, our coaches in the room, Siobhan and Sridhar, and anyone else who wants to jump in. But let's start with maybe Siobhan first, and Sridhar right after. Or actually, Sridhar, you go first. How do you get clients to respect your work and pay you on time? And still be empathetic that it's a difficult market. But how do you get that? That's your goal this year, people to respect my work and pay me on time. How do you get that?
Well, honestly speaking, what we see outside is a mirror of our inside. We need to first and foremost, so I work with clients on this segment closely, which is most people, honestly speaking, do not have clearly defined target markets. They don't put a boundary and say no to certain inquiries, certain clients, certain projects. They feel that I don't want to lose out on this. I just want to take what comes my way, whether it is for 50 dirhams, 500 dirhams, 500,000 dirhams, or whether the client is willing to pay me in immediately or 90 days, doesn't matter. They just take the job. All that happens later in terms of an experience. So what I did in my business, so many of you probably may not be aware of this, that I am a serial entrepreneur. I have a freight and logistics business for the last 10 years. And I'm a coach by passion and now by profession in the last 6 years. So in my freight and logistics business, it's been now 6 years that I drew my boundaries when it comes to taking clients on. It's that they don't drive the whole thing. I drive it. I say no to inquiries. I decide who to take on board. So so I'm very clear in terms of who I want to work with. There are days when about 8 out of 10 inquiries we reject. We don't even reply back. Like we reply back saying thank you very much.
Hold on, Sridhar. I feel so privileged. You said yes to me.
So
Right,
yeah, well,
I
this
feel
is
so
a
privileged.
passion. This is a passion, and this is something I follow in terms of wanting to create an impact. And so this is following my life purpose. My life purpose is to enrich the minds of all those who come under my influence in a positive manner.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so yeah, when it comes to clients, I tell you, 90% of the business owners don't have a boundary drawn as to what kind of clients do they want to work with, what payment terms do they really like to work with and accept, what is the psychography of the client that they can accept and not accept. These are the clear boundaries that need to be defined first, even before starting to work with clients. Because all that you said and asked me the question in terms of how do I get them to respect me is a result. If you have not defined it at the very beginning with your client, don't expect it later on.
I love
You
that.
need to,
You know what?
yes,
I love that. I love that so much. And I have some of my customer success team on here. And I remember last year in December, a particular client that, we've been having they're very difficult with communications, difficult getting paid, and they kind of always come at the last moment for us to do stuff with them, pretty big. And I said no. When they came and said, can you roll this out on Monday? And I remember the customer kind of success team going, but I was a little bit upset, and I said, that's actually not the type of client we want. I want to actually work with different kinds of clients. And yes, I understand it's a big client, but it's been 3 times the same thing has happened over and over, and set the boundaries of who you want to work with. So I really love that. Go ahead.
Don't compromise on your values.
Amen.
Never compromise on your values.
Amen.
First and foremost, if your values and beliefs don't match with the clients and theirs are different, trust me, you're going to have a horrid time.
Yeah.
Because that's the first defining point. And also, and probably everyone in this room know this, the 80-20 principles. 20% of your clients give you 80% of your revenue, and the other 80% of the clients who give you the 20% really suck the blood out of you. So define those clients that you really want
I
to
love
work
that.
with,
I
and
love that.
go after that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about Siobhan? How are you gonna answer that question? How do we get your client to respect you, and how do you get them to pay on time?
First of all, I agree with everything that Sridhar said, because I have 3 values that I speak to when I take on a client. I say I respect you, and you respect your time. I respect your inputs, and we expect the same things out of each other. Respect, integrity, being I do what I say I'm going to do when I say I'm going to do it. I bend backwards. If I've committed to do something, I always meet that timeline, because that is an element of respect, but that is an element of your standing as a professional, as a colleague, as a person in life. And I really spend a lot of pressure. I put a lot of pressure on myself sometimes to make sure that I always do what I say, because it leads to your reputation. It leads to many different things. And also the last value that I also work with is one of collaboration. As a coach, I don't tell people what to do. I facilitate questions and get them to come up with those answers and those agreements and those verbal buy-ins to make sure that that everybody's on board. And one of those is payment terms, right? I get them in when we sign up. Part of my sales process, and part of everybody's sales process, should be to qualify that client and set expectations, right? One, do they have the budget to pay for your service, so you're not having awkward conversations later on? And secondly, do they have your buy-in as to when these things are going to happen? And you challenge them on it, right? And so if they ever step out of line, you remind them in a very polite way. But in the path of least resistance and the most least confrontational way that I do this is I always I have a mantra that is progress is success. And a lot of times when people don't achieve a goal that they've set at the start, they think that the process has gone in vain. But they have moved, if you've moved the mark along from point A and you're somewhere, you want it to be at Z, but somehow you're at P, or what comes after P? Elemental P, Q, right? You're at P or Q, right? You've made significant progress along the line. And so when you can articulate the progress that's been made, they're a lot more willing to say, you know what, I might not have gotten to here, but I've gotten pretty much most of the way. And that also encourages them to say, you know what, I'll pay, there's some value in here.
Yeah. All right. And sometimes, guys, you know, I can tell you in terms of, you know, scaling a business, someone can be very values aligned. You can set all the ground rules going in, and sometimes stuff happens, right? Mm-hmm. Life happens, business happens. And, you know, this is kind of where Terry comes in. You're going to have crucial conversations. Sometimes, you know, stuff hits the fan. You need to be able to have those conversations. And sometimes in those conversations, people could be acting in good faith, and people could also be acting in bad faith. So sometimes you do also have to decide, are you going to spend your energy pursuing something that is taking away from you moving forward and your positive energy pursuing positive things, right? You know, and I can say that to you, you know, in my past life, you know, I was an attorney for 10 years, and that was a conversation I would often have with clients of going, are we going to spend the next 2 to 3 years fighting this? And sometimes it's millions and millions of dollars, and what is that going to cost? Because, you know, again, going back, I think, to Sana, the energy you bring to the room, you take that energy and that bag of bricks with you every single day with you, and you need to make that decision. So I am going to have one last question, and then I'm going to turn it over, and Ria, you know, kind of very quickly on this question, and then we are going to turn it over really quickly to Ankita. And for those of you, we have some of you are staying. We have an exciting talk from metaverse and digital learning, and we have others kind of coming into the room. I can't tell you how excited I am about this talk. I have to, you know, I do have to tell you guys, when I first talked about metaverse, I said, well, what do I enter in my computer to find metaverse? And Nicola laughed at me. Right. Apparently you can't just find metaverse like putting in, you know, I don't know. You know, for many of us, I think we think that, you know, you can type in maybe a domain and you find metaverse. At least I thought that. Ria, the last question kind of goes to you, right? And I will say to you, in terms of, for those of us managing ourselves and even managing our people, right? How do you manage, I would say, how do you, if part of your goal is inspiring others and becoming a trainer and coach, and I know this is very personal to you, Ria, you know, when I interviewed Ria, guys, for this job, I said, who do you want to become? She said to me, I want to be a trainer one day and have my own business. So we're on the road of growing Ria. Hopefully, you know, one day I get to see that happen for her. So Ria, how, if you want to, your team members, and actually I think Sana, this was part of your question, you are in a particular role and you want to be something else. How do you start that path when everybody sees you like an expert already in your space? So, you know, whether it be HR, whether it be in one area, and you see yourself in a completely other area, how do you have that discussion in your company of going, I really want to be the product manager, or I really want to be the tech lead? How do you do that, Ria?
I think these are the, you know, in HR, we call this career conversations, right? So it's very important. Like you and me, Sal, we've had this discussion a lot of times, right? And I do applaud you for this, because as a woman, you ask me, what are your goals and how can I help you achieve that? And I think you as a person, if you want to change careers at any point in your life, whether it's, you know, midlife crisis, or whether it's, you know, your big birthday is coming up and you just want to change something, and you feel that you're just not at the right place in your life, I think the most important thing here is to get in touch with people who can actually get you there. Like, for example, I've met Salia and she's a great mentor for me. I am observing her. She's teaching me these stuff that I've not had experience to do. So mentorship is a great way to, to do this, because would you rather learn it from a book, or would you rather get a person, hey,
hold on, are you selling? Hold on, are you selling our product?
I am selling. So yeah, I think mentorship is a great way to start, I think. And then of course, once you are clear that this is really what I want to do, then, have a plan for it, and make sure that, those are SMART goals, that, you hold yourself accountable, that by this end of a quarter, I've learned this already, so that, you have those short-term goals. In the end, it will move mountains, like what you were saying, Sal, right?
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to, can you please let everyone in? I have people trying to get in for Metaverse team. Yep. Yes, okay, perfect. All right, guys. So right now we have a gift of mentorship going on. For those of you who are parts of companies and organizations, 2 weeks. We're giving you courtesy for being here today, gift of mentorship for your team. So there is a way to, they'll post the link for you to sign up if you're interested in that for any of your teams right now. You want to have the benefit of that. And also, Jahaina on the team, she's trying to hit her KPIs. Hold on, guys. You have to help her here. You're part of us. On her NLP. So for those of you who can, take that link and give her a little bit of feedback in terms of, I would really, really appreciate that.